Mental health problems are a sane reaction to uncommon, insane circumstances. It's not the fear of failure that keeps us bound and arrests us and arrests our development. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's not the fear of failure. It is the fear that we will succeed beyond even our own understanding.
If you got a problem, she'll tell you what you need to do. So just listen, you'll find a way to make it through. If you give it some patience and remember her name. If you got a problem.
Until next time, stay vigilant. A truth that exists in us all is that at some point in our lives, we were human. Shocker, I know. In our humanity, there are behavior patterns we are comfortable with and some we're blind to that we do without even giving it a second thought. I call this unconscious psychological muscle memory or emotional involuntary responses. Because in the early childhood formative years, we needed these responses as an adaptation to the environment we were in. And it was proven to a 7-year-old us to be tried and true. So as an adult, we interact with our environment and people around us in the exact same way as that 7-year-old child that may have grown up in a chaotic, unhealthy environment. Whether it's an extreme rigidity and reluctance to be beyond where we're at right now, or hardline boundaries that make us go on the attack when we feel real or imagined danger. Our brains learned to do that long ago and doesn't stop to ponder over the most healthy reaction in that moment, but that default knee-jerk trigger reflex or our involuntary emotional response gets triggered. Like when you're walking across the room, your legs don't ask your brain for permission to move. They just do it. The issue with these reflective psychological muscle memory responses is that it was formed by yours and my inner child with old, outdated information that was extremely limited in what it could and could not do, and resources it had available to it for responding in a more appropriate, healthy way to real or imagined danger. The goal here is to make us aware that these unseen parts exist and hinders us from showing up as our whole, intelligent, adult true self. We call these automated responses our parts to give greater understanding that it's not all of us. It's parts of us. Our parts don't depend on our whole true self, but that it does, however, default to that old, outdated, childish information that has been stored in our involuntary emotional response for the unconscious psychological muscle memory. To champion this, the first line work is speaking with a licensed professional in trauma-focused therapy or clinician that specializes in inner child work through internal family systems therapy. But for now, what can help is what I call the OARE acronym. Observe, acknowledge, reframe, execute. Observe the part as if we're on the outside of it. A practical question that may be asked is for us to consider the part of ourselves instead of the whole self. Think of a camera. When we hold something up too closely, it's difficult to see. Once we create some distance between the object and the lens, it eventually comes into focus, much more clear than before. In internal family systems therapy, this is called unblending from our parts. Acknowledge that this is a part and not our whole, true, authentic self. This gives perspective and flags our larger brain to make our parts smaller, therefore, much more manageable. Reframe by having compassion for self through this healing journey. There is a sympathetic clarity and awareness that is needed so our adult self can do the healing work. Once in focus, our part realizes it's no longer alone. Execute in locating a licensed therapist in your area, one who practices internal family systems therapy or trauma focused therapy. Until next time, stay vigilant.